follow the money. And especially in healthcare, that is an essential advice. Really follow the money. It's not about patient safety. It's not about the environment. It's not about, in the end, it all trickles down to the money. So that would be my advice. So really go for somewhere that some field in healthcare where you can help to earn the customer money. And that also means that if you can help to earn the healthcare insurance company money, but your customer is actually the hospital, then you're not in the right place.
Welcome to the H-Files, the new series of the Hands-On Business podcast, where we dive deep into the world of healthcare leadership and the unique challenges facing small to medium-sized healthcare businesses. I'm Hakeem Adebiyi, and after years of helping businesses grow in various industries, I'm excited to focus on the area that I know the best, healthcare, one of the most dynamic and impactful sectors in the world today. In this series, we're going to explore what it takes to lead and grow in healthcare, from navigating the complexities of regulation and innovation to overcoming the everyday hurdles of building a sustainable business in this fast-paced environment. Each episode will feature real-world insights, expert interviews, and actionable strategies that can help you push your healthcare business forward. So whether you're a leader in the space or an entrepreneur ready to break into it, the H-Files is here to give you the edge. So what I noticed recently is that most of my podcasts reflect the same as most of the information out there when it comes to the growth of healthcare businesses, i.e., we tend to predominantly look at it from a manufacturer's perspective, which is obviously all well and good, but what about the distributors and the partners who are also critical to success in healthcare expansion? So having noticed that, I decided to find someone who could give me a unique perspective, because the question of how innovative products find the right distributor is no more or less important than how do distributors identify products that will win in the marketplace. So as always, I go out and find the best in the business to discuss these topics, and today I'm joined by Bo Wiesman. Now, Beau is a seasoned healthcare expert. He's lived both sides of this equation because he's an experienced entrepreneur and leader in the healthcare and medtech sectors with over 20 years of experience. Previously, when I first knew Beau, he founded a successful distributor called NC Medical in the Netherlands. And then he went on to found New Compliance, which is a leading digital health company specializing in decision support software for operating rooms and ICUs. And with that business, Beau achieved market leadership in the Netherlands. Then he expanded to the US and into Europe with partnerships involving companies which you've probably heard of, such as Stryker and Philips. Now, over the years, the company successfully raised more than $13 million in venture capital to fuel its growth and innovation. Now, at the same time, don't ask me how he got the time to do it, but at the same time, he co-founded Blue Sparrow's MedTech Fund, which is an investment fund that not only provides early stage capital, but also offers hands-on coaching and mentorship to MedTech startups. And that obviously helps them translate innovative ideas into impactful solutions. So, as you can see from that intro, Beau brings invaluable insights into what it takes to build strong, successful partnerships and businesses in the healthcare industry. So today, we will be connecting the dots and talking about how innovators find distributors, but also how distributors spot winning products. So whether you are a manufacturer, a distributor, or simply someone looking to understand the inner workings of the healthcare market, this conversation is going to be packed with insights which you won't want to miss. So welcome to the podcast, Beau.
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for having me here.
No, really looking forward to this. So to kick things off, I always ask the same question to all my guests, and that's if there's one piece of advice you'd give to anyone trying to make a big impact in their field in healthcare, what would that be? Just one.
My one advice would be, and that might be an open door, but that would be follow the money. And and especially in healthcare, that is an essential advice. Really follow the money. It's not about patient safety. It's not about the environment. It's not about, in the end, it all trickles down to the money. So that would be my advice. So really go for somewhere that some field in healthcare where you can help to earn the customer money. And that also means that if you can help to earn the healthcare insurance company money, but your customer is actually the hospital, then you're not in the right place. And you might get into a squeeze because the hospital actually is only focused on its own money. So a nice example is, for example, to prevent infections. Well, if you're going to have a business preventing infections for the hospital, that might not actually be in the best interest of the hospital, because the hospital actually earns money through these infections, and actually only the healthcare insurance company benefit from that. So my first advice would be follow the money.
So what you're saying there, because this is probably quite a contentious one, because lots of people will say, no, you've got to focus on finding a product which is great for the patient and all that sort of good stuff. But what you're saying is your customer, maybe the hospital, it might be the insurance company, etc. So it's about how do you ensure that you're on the same page as them and you're focusing on what they're driven by, rather than saying, oh, well, I've got to look at the end user patient, etc.
Exactly, and I can give you a nice example. So one of the companies I funded was a company that used UV light for disinfection, and they sold this to hospitals. And in the end, hospitals weren't really obviously that they are interested in disinfection, but they just don't have the budgets for it. So in the end, we pivoted the business model, and through there, so we made a kind of a different product. At first, they wanted to disinfect everything, like medical devices. But then we said, hey, if we can disinfect scopes, they had these intravenous scopes where which they used through the nose. Through this, they didn't have to go to the central sterilization unit, and the hospital actually had to buy less scopes, and less of these scopes were broken. So in the end, the solution was not like the infection control. The solution was a logistical solution, which saved money for the hospital. Yeah, obviously, it's a nice benefit that it's also for infection control and that the patient likes it better. But in the end, the decision comes down to the money.
I think that having worked all over the world as you have and I have, I think that's an important point, because yes, we want to help patients. Yes, we want to help people out there with our healthcare solutions, but actually people need to buy them and want to buy them if you're going to be able to do all those great things. And if people can't afford it, or don't think they can afford it, or don't want to afford it, then actually it's just going to sit on someone's shelf and it's not going to do anything. So I think that's a really important one. Follow the money.
And that's also the complexity, because sometimes money streams in different countries, even in different European countries, they work differently. For what might work in one country, that might not work in another country. We really, at my investment fund, we only invested in companies that had a positive business case, who could really show that they could earn money for their clients directly, not indirectly, but direct money for their clients. So for me, that has been really lesson number one.
Okay, excellent. And I think that should be a lesson to everybody, because I've spoken to lots of people, and we always come to the same thing. We might wrap it up in different ways, but it's about validating your business idea. And what you're saying is the validation of the business idea from your perspective is that, can you generate cash for your customer, or can you save money for that customer directly? Because if you can, then you've got a valuable business case to actually move forward. If you can't, then you need to go back to the drawing board, or, as you said, pivot to something else. And that comes into really understanding your market, doesn't it? And understanding your customer specifically, because if you don't understand that, then you're going to go out with a product, and you may be, and we've all seen it, you'll be selling for 1 or 2 years before you realize, actually, we're not really getting any traction here.
Exactly.
And you just wasted a lot of money. Okay, so we're moving into it to exactly what I want to get into in the first place, and that's a really great place to start. So if you were looking for when you were a distributor, and this is what I'm really interested in, because everyone talks about what a distributor should be like, and I talk a lot about what's the best type of distributor you need to find and how you do it. When you were a distributor, how do you define what are the factors that you need for a manufacturer if you want to partner with them? Because that's just as important.
Yeah, well, obviously, when we started for NC Medical, it was just, as I said again, It started with the nice thing about that disposable bedpan system that we imported from the UK, actually. The nice thing about that was that it was actually, this product was a fit in multiple areas. So it started with the business case, obviously, and it had a positive business case towards the current solution, which was the stainless steel bedpan. What was also nice about it was that it was a replacement product. So, I mean, the challenge with an innovation product can be like, hey, there's no budget for it. There's no, well, this was a replacement product. So if these bedpans were outdated and they should be replaced, then we had this nice alternative. So there was already a budget. What helped was that the nurses really liked this. So we could really build our decision-making unit. Nurses were happy, infection control was happy, like facilitation services, like maintenance was happy because this was an easier machine. So we really discovered that this product addressed so many areas, and that's why it was such a nice product actually to sell. Environmentally, it worked. So this was a really nice and actually an easy product. The only thing, the biggest hurdle that we had to take for this product, because we were disposing these disposable bedpan products, we had to convince the wastewater companies that we were disposing this product and that they would allow this. So it was really about building this alliance of hospitals, the National Infection Control Committee, like different stakeholders in the hospitals, but also getting these wastewater companies on board. And it's about managing this whole decision-making unit. How are you going to influence, get them all on the table? Because if we're just like this nice company, this small company, they're not going to listen to us. I mean, we're not a player for them. But if hospitals talk to wastewater companies, they want to help each other. So we were constantly facilitating. And I think that's why we've been very successful with that product. We were actually more successful than like these traditional distribution companies. I mean, because we took it like we took an entrepreneurial stance and we really dove into this product and really try to get all these different players together. While like the traditional big distributor, they just put it in their product portfolio, and you'll be like the 100th product, and you have to compete with all these other products, while we really dedicated our time and our company to launching this product.
Okay, so the things I'm taking out of there are obviously, number one, you need a product that actually can fit into a lot of areas so you can bring people together and that actually it impacts different areas. And then obviously a positive case study against the incumbent. And actually, so one thing you picked out right at the beginning there was when you were talking about from a distributor point of view, and I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, you're saying that actually having something that isn't innovative in terms of it's not a completely new product and there's never been anything like it, it's probably not as attractive as something that has innovation to it, but there's already an incumbent on the market whereby you're going against something and you're better than that. Would that be?
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. Like really how to, what makes a successful distributor and a successful product. So maybe to get back to your question, what are the most critical factors distributors look for when selecting a healthcare manufacturer to partner with? It obviously depends on the distributor. Like, are you a distributor that already have like this huge sales force, but then you are looking for an easy product? So typically they don't look for the innovative products. They don't look for a product that they really have to put in a lot of work. So that really also, that's also a nice advice for a manufacturer. What type of distributor are you looking for? Do you want to have these big companies that have it on the shelf, like you're just a product number 101 or 1001? Or do you want to have more like entrepreneurial guys that have to prove themselves? And I think that the disposable bedpan company, they made they actually made a great choice going for us. They saw that we were the guys that had what it takes, and we actually became the most successful distributor in their whole portfolio. So because we made it a sole dedicated company, and we hadn't had the burden of having these other products. So it really depends on what kind of distributor are you looking for, and what is the success that you can make in your home market. And it really depends on, does the product add up for on all these different areas, starting with obviously a positive business case. I think that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of that, because when you started, I mean, you started before I came into that manufacturing company, actually, so they'd already made that decision. And obviously, we had a very good relationship with you guys. So that's so critically important. So from both sides, how do you foster that? Because obviously you were a very small company, and at the time when you set up with them, most of their distributors were quite big. So how did you get that relationship with them to say, actually, we are the right guys, and then continue on that transparent relationship with the manufacturer to make sure that you actually grew together, basically?
Yeah, definitely. I think also from a cultural perspective. I mean, we're a Dutch company. This manufacturer is a British company. And we just had there was a really good connection from the start on. I mean, we went to having dinners, going to the pub together. And I mean, it was all about this relationship and trust, actually. And that worked really well because also the communication was very open, and we could really say, hey guys, if things weren't working, and let's do this together. So it became our joint product. And obviously for us, it was also there was uncertainty as well, like, hey, but if we're going to build up this product, will we stay the dedicated and sole distributor? But you see that, I think from a cultural fit, because we invested and they invested also in the relationship, not only between the directors, but also within the rest of the employees. And I think that works from both sides in the end. And I've also seen that with my US distributors. When I worked with when I worked with my other products, with my other company, that the relationship is key. So just thinking like, hey, we're going to call up or email this company and they're going to distribute our healthcare product, that's not how healthcare works. It is, you have to tailor this business case, tailor all these different elements, and really work together in this. And then a relationship starts. You have to be patient, obviously, because the introduction to a new market, that can take like 2, 3, maybe even 5 years, because healthcare is such a complex market, and all these different elements, all these different stakeholders, they go slowly. So it is really about trust and about the relationship.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think one of the things that I would just add to that, which is incumbent in your answer, is it's just about being honest. You know, when things are going well, we celebrate a success. When things aren't going well, you just tell us the truth. Because I think that there are certain cultures, and I think this is where about the cultural fit and understanding culture, whereby people won't tell you things are going wrong until it's too late. And I think as soon as you know it's a problem, especially when you've got a strong relationship, no one gets offended because everyone's trying to do the best for the business. So if you just tell the manufacturer exactly what the issue is, or vice versa, then you can actually resolve it without any problems, as opposed to leaving it till it gets too far down the line.
Yeah, and maybe especially because healthcare has such long sales, such long lead times. What can also help, just to get a bit more feeling, is not to focus only on revenue, but really focus also maybe on your sales funnel growth, for example.
Yes.
So that you have a bit of an indicator how things are going. Because if your sales funnel is growing, but they're not converted, because a typical sale within the healthcare market can be like 18 to 24 to 36 months. But then at least you have some indication that things are going well, and then you can have the right conversations.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's really important. And again, looking at the partnership angle, everybody is always focused on how do I find the best distributors? And obviously, I've got a methodology in terms of how to do that. But one of the first things that a manufacturer should be doing is making themselves attractive to the best distributors. So, what would you say a manufacturer has to do to be able to attract those distributors? Because it's not just about manufacturers always going out and getting distributors. The manufacturer has to be attractive to the best distributors that are out there.
Yeah, and to be honest, we have really being active in these markets, especially in the bigger markets. We always had like feet on the ground in the US because just waiting until the right distributor comes to you, you have to be really active and then really start to learn to know the market yourself. And then you can choose the right distributor. And as said, like with the disposable bedpan company, I think what worked really well was that we were really entrepreneurs. And also because the culture, like the British and the Dutch culture, they're quite similar. But for our US product, so when we were the manufacturer, it really helped to just have feet on the ground, to be there constantly. Also because the US, like it's times different, it's in a different time zone, so it's just difficult to just wait until the right distributor comes to you. I think you actively have to look like what is the same distributor really aligns with our product. So for example, with my OR company, our first distributor was more like a hardware company, and they weren't, and it's a very nice company, but they weren't really accustomed to selling digital health products. So selling software products is something totally different than selling hardware in the operating room. So it's also like what the and I've learned that the bigger the company, as I said, we have cooperation agreements with a Striker, for example, the more time it's going to take you to navigate these huge distributor companies. So and also you have to train these people there. So be careful in just going for these big guys, because this will take you years of investment.
Yeah, no, and I've had this conversation because whenever I speak to manufacturers, and they always say, "Oh, well, what's better, a bigger distributor or a small distributor?" And actually, interestingly, most of the time I use you as an example because I say, "Well, you don't have to be massive. Having a small distributor who's dedicated and focused can out deliver these massive distributors." And exactly as you said, if you're getting a big distributor, you have to know what you're in for. You have to know the layers. You have to know that it's not going to be as quick. They're not going to respond as quickly. And it's unlikely that their product is going to be as the same level of interest to them, because it's just another product in a portfolio, as opposed to somebody who's more dedicated. Maybe he's got one or maybe even 3 or 4 products, but not 500 products.
No, and that's actually a very interesting one. So we've seen also to be successful with these very big distributing companies, it really has to align with their current portfolio. So I always say it has to be 1+1 is 3. So you really have to reinforce their current product portfolio. Like Striker, if we could have a product that actually would increase the sale of their own product, then you're in. But if they're not going to sell your product, while they already they have their sales targets, they have these sales reps, they're very experienced, but they have to sell, sell, sell. That's why they get their bonuses. So doing these innovation products, like, which is difficult, and why would they do that? They are only going to run with your product if it reinforces their own product portfolio.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I often have the conversation with people about, recruiting for a distributor is like recruiting for a CEO, or, because lots of people fumble in to a distributor and then they say, "Oh yeah, we'll work with you," but they've not really done any analysis. They don't understand, as you just mentioned there, does it fit with their portfolio? And you'd never do that for an employee or a CEO. You would actually do a proper research, a job description, all those sort of things. And the amount of people who say, "Oh, I went to Arab Health and I bumped into somebody and then I'm a distributor." All right. So you put a whole you put a whole country in the hand of someone you've met for 5 minutes. Okay, yeah, I'm sure it works sometimes, but the amount of nightmare stories I've heard, and every time somebody says to me they have a really bad distributor experience, when I say, "Oh, where, and how did you identify them?" "Oh, I met them at Arab Health, or I met them at Medica." And this is not to say that those conferences are bad. But if you're going to go, then you need to know what you're going for and have a plan, not just bump into somebody and then say, "Oh, yeah, well, we haven't got anyone in that market, and so you can do it for us."
Exactly. And actually, like from with my investment fund, we actually saw these companies and all these entrepreneurs said, well, then next year we're going into 6 countries. And I always told them, like, why do 6 countries? Why not do one country successfully? Start with your home country, actually, doing that successfully. Because, well, the Netherlands is a nice and small country with good transportation, and all the hospitals, for example, they're very close by. So start with outperforming in the Dutch market and then go to one other country and actually go to a substantial country. Don't go to Belgium. Sorry, Belgian people on this podcast. But Belgium is 3 countries and it's also 3 small countries. So then either go to Germany, go to the UK, or go to the US. But if you go to the US, know that you have to bring like 1.5, maybe 2 million just to sit it out and set up your business and your own people there, because you have to really set up the invest in it and change all these different, really understand the market, and then choose your distributor.
Well, as you said right at the outset, it comes down to follow the money, doesn't it? So if you go into Belgium, and this is not a Belgian kicking session, but if you go in Belgium, then you're not really following the money, because you're not going to get. It's going to take you some time, because of obviously the fact you said it's 3 countries, which it is, and even if you break into it, it's not that massive, so you're not going to make a huge amount. And then the converse with the US, because everyone says, oh well, let's go into the US first, without understanding the amount of money you're going to have to spend if you want to really make it. So you're kind of following the money, but you're not following the return on investment, because you're going to have to spend a lot before you make any. So as you said, getting into your home market first is generally much more cost effective and much better return on investment. So you're following the money, and then you take those learnings, and then if you want to then get into the US, then you need to understand what it's going to take to get into the US, and you need to have some cash behind you, whether that's an investment or it's self-generated, but you need to have a serious amount of cash and understand you're not going to walk there tomorrow and then by in a week's time you're going to be making millions of pounds because the patient population is so large.
No, exactly. And for example, what made the US with my digital health company, why we chose the US, and that's also an important factor, is we had to connect to their current digital infrastructure. And why not go to Germany? Because their EMRs, their current digital infrastructure, is very outdated. So they are actually 20 years behind in many aspects. While the US has a very highly digitized EMR. So they all have Epic or Cerner, which are EMRs. And that made it very attractive for us, because then if you have to connect to these EMRs, then that's a very interesting country, because you only have like this limited landscape of EMRs and highly digitized hospitals. While Germany is a bit outdated. So therefore, that's why you have to consider carefully. If we would say, no, we go to Germany or we go to Italy or we go to Spain, and every time you have different systems where you have to connect to, they're outdated, you get into a lot of hassle. So these are all, that's why you just can't say, hey, I'm going to do 5 countries. You really have to do your research first.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really important point, is that research, and only go into a market is one of the questions I was going to ask, but you've already answered it, was about making sure you've done the research before you go into the market. Because if you don't, you're going to have problems, because people have preconceived ideas of what every market's like without actually ever going to them. And you really want to make sure that you understand not just the market and the market dynamics, but specifically the market dynamics as it relates to your product. Because, I've seen so many people who say, oh yeah, but America's a great market, or Germany's a great market, because I've heard blah, blah, launched this product in there and it's gone really well. Yeah, but that product's nothing like yours. So why are you using that as a product to analyze where you want it? You need to look at how your product first is going to fit into that market, and then, as you said, especially in the US, getting boots on the ground, understanding that market, because it's massive. Each state is like a country, to be honest, and understanding that before you start looking for distributors, because otherwise you'll make those significant mistakes and you'll get a distributor without knowing anything, and it just won't result in the end game that you're hoping. So just on that note, so obviously we're talking about all the things that we need to do, the preparation. What are some of the top mistakes that you've seen manufacturers make when they're working with distributors, and how can they try and avoid them, or how have you avoided them? Because obviously you started off as a distributor, so you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, well, I haven't avoided them all. Obviously, we've learned also by doing and by making these mistakes. But like the biggest mistakes is there has to be a fit with the company that is going to distribute your company, and with the product that the company that is manufacturing the product. But also not only like a fit, like, hey, we would like to do this, but also like we would like to sell this. As I said, our first distributor in the US, they were a very nice and decent company. We're also distributing products in the US in the operating room, but they didn't have the capacity to really sell a digital health product. Selling an operating room bed is something totally different than selling a digital solution where you have to involve the IT department, and really have to be able to talk on a technical level. And we saw that their sales force also wasn't really equipped. I mean, these were just sales guys going for their sale. So it's really about not only about like, do we want to sell this product, but also do you have the right capacity on board, the right salespeople on board? And then like diving into these different elements of like the law of how the healthcare system works. Before we actually started with the disposable bedpan company, we were the distributor of another product from the US, which was this gauze sensor. So we were scanning gauzes, which was whether these gauzes would retain in the body after surgery, which was a highly successful company in the US. But we didn't sell one in the Netherlands because obviously, follow the money again. If they would be sued in the US, it would cost the hospital millions. While if they would get sued here in the Netherlands, they would get like these flowers and a big sorry, we're not going to do it again. So that's why the business case worked totally different in the US than it was working in the Netherlands. So getting to know this, like really getting to know how the software, the hospital system works. Same as I said, with the software, we found out, oh, we're going to Germany. And then we found out that the Germans didn't have like one common EMR, or not even two. Like they had like 20 different outdated systems. So you really have to dive in the market yourself, and then really see, does the people that are going to sell my product reflect the capacity that my company has?
Yeah, I like that. So effectively, your business case has to work. Then you need someone who's got the passion for it, but passion isn't enough. Effectively, what you're saying is they need the competence, and also and competence. When we talk about competence, are they touching the right core points? Do they understand the product? Do they have experience in it? Because you can always learn it, but that's going to take a lot longer than somebody who's already got those key connections if you want to penetrate a market quickly.
Yeah, and I still think that you have to do your homework yourself. So just going to Arab Health or Medica, really dive into the market yourself. Not only trust one distributor or the guy that you walk into on Medica, but really start to, why are we going into this market? What is the core technology in this market? What are the core, how does the business model work? If you think, hey, we're going to choose this market, travel to that market, visit a hospital there or visit a healthcare facility there, and start talking to people. You have to do your homework instead of trusting this one guy with this smooth talk.
Yeah, there's always plenty of those about. So in terms of your learnings, if you to say that, what are your top 3 learnings that you got as a distributor that you've taken across to when you became a manufacturer, effectively producing innovative products? What would they be?
Yeah, well, as I already said, that we saw that these, as a manufacturer, we saw that these companies, especially these bigger companies, they needed to have support. That's why I said boots on the ground. We really made sure that, especially these bigger companies, they aren't entrepreneurial. They aren't going to look, obviously, they're just going, as soon as we got on the plane, they were doing their business as usual. So we really needed to have somebody boots on the ground to help them, to talk to hospitals, to really read between the lines, and also to just manage this big distributor, like project manage them. Okay, guys, what are we going to do next? What are the hospitals? It's such a different energy that's, I mean, if you're there and are going to help them and support them on a daily basis, that's a different energy than you're just saying, okay, guys, here's my product, good luck, and let's talk in 3 months or in 6 months how you sold my product. So now we were going to help them with marketing materials, with business cases. As I said, we've seen that especially these big distributors, they aren't entrepreneurs. So in some way, or either you're a manufacturer or a distributor, you have to combine this entrepreneurial aspect with the sales capacity and the network that these large distributors have. As a smaller manufacturer, you have to put boots on the ground. If you're this big manufacturer, you might want to work with these smaller, more entrepreneurial distributors.
Yeah, no, yeah. So it's almost like the converse, isn't it? Because what you're saying is what you want that entrepreneurial spirit mixed with that large scale
network
finance, network finance, etc. So if you're a small manufacturer, potentially look for a big one, because they will have all that infrastructure and you can add the entrepreneurial bent. But if you're massive, then you probably want a smaller manufacturer because you've got the clout, but then they can do all the entrepreneurial bits in the market. Yeah, that's a very...
And obviously these big distributors, they also have the advantage of their name. I mean, if my company, New Compliance, would come into a US hospital, there would be a different energy than if the big Stryker would come into the hospital. So they would also get to a different level. We would typically enter at the OR manager level, while they would enter at the C level. It really combining that big distributor with the entrepreneurial spirit that helps. But you need to have, for healthcare to be successful in healthcare, you need to have that entrepreneurial spirit. So if you can't get the big company, the big corporation, you can probably get the entrepreneurial spirit. So that's why, as we mentioned before, that's why this small entrepreneurial company was more successful for the disposable bedpan company than most of these bigger distributors.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. And that's certainly something that I've learned over the years, that actually I think lots of manufacturers specifically go into it and are looking for just a massive distributor. And as you said at the outset, you've got to look at the cultural fit, but also the best fit for your product when you're going into that market. And it's not always the biggest one. And often, and never mind, it's not always, often it's not.
That's why in the US, we first had like a smaller distributor, which was a family company. And then we went to Stryker. So especially in the beginning, you need to have this entrepreneurial spirit. So I wouldn't advise a manufacturer to go, if the product is an innovation product, to go to these large distributing companies. They are actually only interested if the product is already running in their markets. If you already have like 5 to 10 hospitals up and running, which takes a lot of heavy lifting. So the heavy lifting has already been done, and then they step in.
In fact, it's interesting because a previous company, we spoke to Stryker because they were interested in purchasing a product we use it, and they actually said quite specifically, there's only 3 reasons why we invest in a product. Number 1, you've got loads of clinical data. Number 2, you've already got some accounts, so you've proved the concept. Or number 3, you're making a shed load of money already. And exactly. So those are the only 3 things they're interested in. So they're not interested in a fantastic, innovative product that's not done anything. They need one of those 3 things. And they actually said at the time, and the quickest thing for you to do is just get 5 to 10 accounts, and exactly. then we're interested.
And then maybe number 4, which they didn't tell you, but I told before, is that it's reinforcing their current product portfolio.
Yes.
So with that product, they can actually sell one of their products better or more effectively, or they can outcompete a competitor because they have your product now as well.
In all the companies I've spoken to, when you look at acquisitions, etc., that's always the same. They have to have some headroom for them to really bring their size to bear to grow it, and it has to fit in with their portfolio of products. So, okay, so we're coming to the end. I can't believe how quickly that's gone. So I say this to everybody. We start chatting and then I think, oh, we've run out of time. Before you go, if you could leave our listeners with one practical piece of advice on leading a healthcare business with clear values and vision, what would that advice be?
As I'm going to say it again, follow the money and be patient. Be patient and be focused. International expansion is just in healthcare. It's going to be a very long trajectory. So that's why be focused. Don't focus on 5 markets, but only focus on 1 or 2 very successful markets, and do your own research and be patient and focus on the money.
Well, we end as we began. Follow the money. Focus on the money, and then, as you said there, be patient and be focused. And I think if you take those pieces of advice, you'll probably go into the right markets, you'll go with the right products, and you'll identify the right partners to work with. So, Bo Wiesman, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Hakeem. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. So I hope you found that as interesting and informative as I did. As I said right at the outset, I wanted to find somebody who could give me a unique take on healthcare and how that can grow. And the reason why Beau is so unique, because he started off as a distributor, he's then pivoted to being a manufacturer, and he's gone into the US and some of those biggest markets, and now he's also an investor and invests into medtech companies and helps medtech companies grow and expand internationally. So it was really important to be able to reflect on that and look at all those angles on what manufacturers should be looking for in distributors, and also what distributors are looking for in manufacturers. And I'll leave you with exactly what Beau said right at the end there, which I think are 3 key things if you try to grow a healthcare business. Number 1, follow the money. Number 2, be patient. And number 3, be focused. And don't forget to pick up the show notes over at thesalesaccelerationformula.com/podcast-show-notes. You'll also find an option to subscribe to our mailing list so that you can get notes for every single episode straight to your inbox. While you're at it, don't forget to tune in to next week's episode of my new 5 in 5 series, where I share 5 actionable takeaways in just 5 minutes from this episode, which will help you supercharge your business growth. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who might find it valuable. Most importantly, keep the feedback coming so we can keep improving and bringing you more of what you love. Thank you very much for tuning in. And remember, keep listening, keep growing, and keep thriving.